Hey, what's going on everybody? It's the Microphone here and welcome back to another video. Today we'll be returning to Betweenlands, but this time we'll be checking out all the mobs that this mod adds. If you missed last week's video where we covered all the biomes and structures that this mod adds, you'll definitely want to check that out. Link should be down in the description below as well as in a card in the top right. Also, we just dropped a brand new video on the science rows. It has been a long time since a new video has come up in there, so definitely check that out. Link will be down in the description below once again. So, since this mod adds in so many mobs, we will be splitting this video up as we always do. The timestamps will be on your screen right now. If you just want to watch the whole video through normally, go right ahead, that'll make complete sense. Or if you want to see something specific, you can look at the timestamp for that. Also, any feature that I mentioned but I don't explain in this video will be covered in its own respective video, so don't worry about that. Make sure you guys subscribe with notifications on so you don't miss the next parts of this mod showcase. Now let's get on to the video. So, first off, we'll be starting with the passive mobs. These mobs merely exist and will not attack the player even if provoked. We'll be going alphabetical order. So first off we have the blind cavefish. So this is a small gray fish. It has no eyes and it spawns underground in the lake caverns layer. This little guy will swim around in swamp water and it will die if it is exposed to the air for too long. It has no drops. Next is the Chiroma Greebling Rider. This is simply a Greebling riding a Chiroma. When the Chiroma is killed, the Greebling will glide down with a Volarkite and then explode into leaves. The Greebling will shoot between stone pebbles at any pullers for a Drayton, which will make them very annoying if you're flying around, but if you are not, they should leave you completely alone. They drop a simple slingshot and a Chiroma wing. Next is the Dragonfly. These are flying insects that spawn in coarse islands and patchy islands. When the player is far enough away, they will land on the ground to rest. When a player approaches, they'll fly away. They drop 1 to 4 dragonfly wings. Then we have the Firefly, which spawns on the surface of all biomes. They are small flying bugs that periodically turn on and off an orange light. They can be caught with a net and used in a crafting recipe. Then we have the Frog, which spawns in swamplands, patchy islands, and coarse islands. It can be green, blue, yellowish, purple, and black with yellow spots. The black and yellow spotted will give off green particle effects that indicate it is poisonous. It will drop 1 to 2 frog legs. The frog legs will be fried if they are killed by fire and raw if not, and the poisonous variety will drop a poison gland. Then we have a Gecko, which spawns in coarse islands, patchy islands, and swamplands. If a player gets within 7 blocks, it will run away, heading towards any nearby weedwood bushes if possible. If it gets to the bush, it will make a large rustling sound and the bush will spew out leaves. This gecko will stay hidden for at least 2 minutes, after which there is a 10% chance every tick for the gecko to unhide itself if there is no player within 7 blocks. If the bush is broken, the gecko will be revealed. Geckos can be right-clicked with a net to be captured. They are important for discovering aspects for use in herb lore, which will be covered in a later video specifically for that topic. Then we have the Greebling, which spawns uncommonly on the surface of all biomes. It can spawn in 2 variants. One has brown clothes and a pan flute, and the other has red clothes and a string instrument. Their music will play in tandem. If you get too close to them, they'll disappear. Next are the Mire Snail, which spawn in swamplands and patchy islands. They are slow creatures that can be led or bred with sludge balls or sap spit and will lay a Mire Snail egg. They drop up to 1 ochre snail shell as well as 1 to 2 snail flesh, which is seared if killed by fire and raw if not. Next is the Root Sprite, which are small creatures that spawn on giant roots. They will run away from players, drop 1 to 2 root pods, up to 1 plant items, up to 1 white pear seeds, and up to 1 Espectra seeds. Then we have the Sporling, which spawn on shelf fungus and spores in the animator. And they also spawn from decayed yellow dotted fungus crops. They'll run away from players, and if they fall from a high place, it'll inflate its head and drift down slowly like a chicken. It has a chance to spawn while riding a gecko. Now let's cover the neutral mob that this mod adds. These are passive until provoked. So we have the Lurker, which spawns in coarse islands, patchy islands, and deep waters. They are large crocodile-like reptiles that will not attack unless hit, at which point all nearby lurkers will come to its aid. They prey on anglers and dragonflies, and they don't take knockback. They drop 1 to 3 lurker skins. Then we have the Pyrad, which are tree spirits that can spawn around giant weedwood trees, as well from spawners in Crag Rock Towers and the White Fortress. They are initially in a resting state and will wake upon taking some damage. They can also awake if a block from the giant weedwood tree they spawned on gets broken. When attacking, they'll glow green and charge up an attack before launching some Pyrad flame projectiles in the general direction of its target. These fireballs can set entities and blocks on fire. They'll return to sleep after a while if there are no players or targets nearby, and they have a nice little custom death animation. They drop a sulfur, 1 to 3 tangled root, and 1 to 6 pyrite flames if they're killed by a player while charging their attack. So next up we have the aggressive mobs. So first is the angler, which is a carnivorous fish that spawns in every surface biome except for marshes and sludge plains. They can also spawn in the lake cavern layer. They emit blue light from the tip of their head. They travel in rivers and lakes and will rapidly swim towards the player and attack them if they see them. They bite rapidly, which can make them a bit of a pain. If the player reaches land, they'll jump out of the water to keep attacking. However, if they don't get back to the water, they'll flop around and die in the air. They drop 0 to 4 angler teeth and 0 to 4 angler meat, which is angler steak if killed by fire and raw if not. Then we have the ash sprite, which are small demon-like mobs that can spawn from breaking urns of chance in the labyrinthine vault. They can phase through blocks similar to Vexes. They drop 1 to 2 cremains. Then we have the Barashi itself, which is found in the labyrinthine vaults and disguises itself as a dungeon door. When the correct code is inputted, it will reveal itself and begin to attack the player. Its front resembles a lion and its back a pile of scrap. It has 200 HP and does quite a bit of damage. It will glow red and let out a roar, breaking a few blocks, which if you fight it in the labyrinthine vaults, can break some pots of chance, which will in turn spawn ash sprites. It will also attack you with its vicious claws and create a shockwave. It drops a life crystal if killed by a player, as well as a rune door key. Then we have the blood snail, which spawns in the swamplands and patchy islands. They can also spawn from spawners in underground oases and shrines. These are snails with red striped shells, that attack with normal melee and also shoot a jet of blood, which gives you poison for 5 seconds. They drop up to 1 crimson snail shell and poison gland, as well as up to 1 snail flesh, which is seared if killed by fire and raw if not. Then we have the boulder sprite, which spawns in the cavern layer. If it is alone, it will burrow into pit zone or between zone. It can roll at a player if it spots one while burrowed. They can destroy blocks they touch during their roll. They'll do more damage the faster they're rolling. They will sink and drown in water. They drop 0 to 16 stalactites. This number depends on the number of stalactites they have on top of their head visually. Up to 1 angry pebble and between zone, or sulfur ore, or slimy bone ore, or sermerite ore, or octine ore, or scabbous ore, or valenite ore. Then we have the Chiro mob, which are bat-like mobs that spawn in the cavern and lake cavern layers, as well as rarely in every surface biome aside from deep waters. They can also spawn from spawners in crag rock towers and the White Fortress. They strike quickly and are most effective in swarms, doing basic melee damage. You can grow a Chiro mob from a Chiro mob hatchling, and they drop up to 1 Chiro mob wing. Next are the Chiro mob hatchlings, which spawn in Chiro mob matriarch nests in the Raised Isles biome. They can be stolen using a net. They need to be placed on octine blocks for 10 minutes to hatch. If they are picked up with a net, their progress will be saved. You can use this command on screen to hatch them immediately. Once hatched, they cannot be put into the inventory until fully grown. When hatched, they will immediately be hungry and cry upon seeing a player. A sprite will be above their head, showing what food they want. The craving can be mire snail egg, raw snail flesh, raw frog's leg, raw angler meat, dragonfly wings, geckos, fireflies, silk crab claws, or lurker skins. Hatchlings take 8 feedings before they are fully grown. When right-clicked, they'll sit on the player's head, giving them a double jump. They will still attack hostile mobs in this state. Right-clicking on a ceiling will remove the Chiro mob from your head and place it hanging on the block. They can be healed with raw snail flesh. Lightning Chiro mob hatchlings are created when normal hatchlings are struck by Betweenlands lightning. Lightning Chiro mobs shoot lightning barbs in addition to their melee attacks. And tame Chiro mobs will shoot regular barbs in addition to their melee attacks. Then we have the Chiro mob matriarch, which spawns in the Raised Isle biome in a nest. It has 200 HP. It will occasionally fly away from its nest, but it will always try and stay near it. It will attack with normal melee. It can pick up the player doing damage or time before throwing or dropping it. It will drop bombs with an area of effect that cause blindness and launch barbs that stun the player. It drops a Chiro barb eruptor, which becomes a Chiro barb shock eruptor if you throw it into Betweenlands lightning. Next is the Crypt Crawler, which are naked mole rats that spawn on the 6th level of the labyrinthine vaults of the Sludgeon and from spawner holes that occasionally appear during the Blood Skies event. They run on all fours by default, standing up on their hind legs when near a player or holding a weapon. They can spawn with a bunch of different weapons or shields, although these are typically only of the 3 weakest tiers. A Crypt Crawler Chief can rarely spawn with 100 HP. This guy will be holding an Octine sword and Sermerite shield. They can drop Ancient Remnants, Valenite Splinters, Octine Nuggets, Sermerite Nuggets, Amate Paper, Dragonfly Wings, Dentrithus shards, lurker skin, reed rope, tar drips, white pear seeds, and a spectrous seeds. Then we have the dark druid, which are magic users that have gone insane trying to fix the Betweenlands state of decay. They spawn from dark druid spawners found in druid circles that generate in the overworld swamps. The lore can be found on the wiki. They attack by lifting their arms and levitating the player before dropping them down, causing fall damage. If they get too far away, they will teleport back to the player. They drop up to 1 swamp talisman piece, and they'll only drop pieces that aren't already in the player's inventory. Then we have the Emberling Shaman, which spawn whenever all 4 braziers on top of the sludging tower are lit. When the player is near, they will spin 3 blocks in the air to avoid being hit. When the player is far, they will shoot homing flames. They drop 1 to 4 undying embers. Then we have the Lamprey, which is found in the walls of the sludgeon's 3rd layer. When the player gets too close, they'll emerge from their holes and attempt to suck the player towards them every 2 seconds. The pull is stronger the closer the player is, but it only reaches 3 blocks from the player. They'll also rapidly drain the player's decay bar. These guys have no drops. Then we have large sludge worms, which are hostile worms found in the pit of decay and on the surface from sludge worm spawner holes during heavy rain events. Attacking them can cause them to spawn small sludges, and while chasing you, they will lay sludge worm egg sacs. They'll attack passive and neutral Betweenlands mobs. They drop 1 to 2 slimy bones and sludge balls, as well as up to 1 sludge jello. Then we have the leech, which are parasitic creatures that spawn in the swamplands and patchy islands. They can also spawn from spawners in underground oases and shrines. They have 2 states, hungry and full. When hungry, they will rush towards the nearest entity and latch on, doing melee damage over time. When they're finally full, they'll let go. They drop up to 1 ball of sap. Next is the living root, which are hostile growths found in the sludgeon's 5th layer. They have no loot and do only a bit of melee damage. They'll go back into blocks and emerge elsewhere to pursue the player, similar to small spirit tree faces. Then we have the peat mummy, which spawn in marsh and sludge plains biomes and have their spawn rates heavily increased during the Blood Sky event. They have 110 HP and are occasionally summoned by the dreadful peat mummy, albeit with less HP. They spawn submerged within mud or peat that is at least 3 by 3 by 2 blocks. When a player gets within 6 blocks of them, they'll rise out of the mud and attack, crawling on all 4s. They do basic melee damage and occasionally scream loudly, shaking the screen. For a few seconds after this, their movement speed will sharply rise and they'll charge at the player, doing more damage than before. They won't take knockback. You can distract them by throwing shimmer stones, giving you time to escape, and they drop up to 5 shimmer stones if killed by a player. Then we have the shallow breath, which are dangerous entities that spawn in marsh biomes, as well as from the infuser when a boiling infusion evaporates. They are living, moving clouds of toxic gas with different colors depending on their origin. They pass through blocks and drift aimlessly near the ground until a player gets too close, at which point they'll suddenly chase them. They try to stay on top of the player, doing constant suffocation damage as well as inflicting poison 1 for 2 seconds. They take no knockback and have no drops. Then we have the Shambler, which are vicious mobs that spawn on level 2 of the labyrinthine vaults. They'll shoot out their tongues at their target and bring the targets toward themselves. If you get stuck in their mouth, use your sword to attack them, as they only have 20 hit points. You can also press shift to escape, which would cause the Shambler to lose their tongue for 3 seconds. If you get close, however, they will attack you even without the tongue, and they drop 1 to 3 Shambler tongues. Then we have the Silt Crab, which are small hostile mobs that only spawn on silt beaches. They'll attack the player by giving them a quick bite before scurrying quickly away into the water. They can't swim, but don't drown. When in water, they'll relentlessly attack the player. They drop 1 to 2 Silt Crab claws. Then we have the Sludge, which are slime-like creatures that spawn in the sludge plains biomes, as well as in swamplands clearings once the spirit tree has been destroyed. They can hide by submerging themselves within swamp dirt, mud, or sludgy dirt if there's no player nearby for them to track. When the player gets too close, they'll leap out to attack. They leave behind a trail of sludge wherever they go, which greatly slows down the player's movement. They attack with melee and do not split when killed, unlike slimes. They drop up to 2 sludge balls, and small sludges are mini versions of regular sludges. However, unlike sludges, they won't place down trails of sludge when they move. And we have these small sludge worms, which are hostile worms found in the sludgeon and on the surface during the heavy rain event. They spawn in groups of 2 to 4 from wormholes when the player gets close. They drop up to 1 sludge ball. Then we have the Swamp Hag, which is an undead mob that spawns commonly in swamplands, patchy islands, coarse islands, and deep waters. They also spawn more commonly in the cavern and lake cavern layers. During Blood Skies, spawn rates are sharply boosted and they can spawn in all surface biomes. They can also spawn from monster spawners and shrines, underground oases, crag rock towers, and the White Fortress. They deal melee damage, they bang on doors in the way of their target, and they can break the doors if the world is in hard difficulty. They'll act like vanilla zombies by alerting other nearby hags of the player when one is attacked. When spawned during the Blood Sky, they move faster and deal more damage than usual. They also get faster and stronger the deeper underground you go. They can be possessed by wights, turning them into turrets. They can also spawn with a random amulet, giving it middle gem circle benefits, depending on the type applied. This will be covered in a later video. And they drop 1 to 2 slimy bones. Then we have the Tar Beast, which spawn within pools of tar in sludge plains and rarely swamp plains biomes. They can also spawn from Tar Beast spawners in tar pool dungeons. Their texture is animated like flowing tar. They take no knockback, and in addition to basic melee, they have 2 attacks. The Tar Explosion, where a brief transparent image of themselves appears around them before causing an explosion, which briefly sucks the player's view inward and then explodes, dealing tons of damage and gives the player slowness 2 for a few seconds. They can also pull you towards themselves to suffocate you. A constantly pulsating transparent image will be visible around them for a few seconds before giving off black particles. Then they'll pull the player into themselves, causing the screen to go black with tar and cause suffocation damage to the player for a few seconds. Running into the Tar Beast at any time will also cause the screen to fill with tar, and they can also spawn with a random middle gem amulet. They drop 1 to 2 tar drips and up to 1 Tar Beast heart if killed by a player. Then we have the Termite, which are insects that occasionally spawn when the player breaks rotten weedwood bark or pot of chance, as well as from some spawners in crag rock towers and the White Fortress. They can also spawn from spawners in underground oases and shrines. These guys have no drops. Then we have the Tiny Sludge Worm, which are hostile worms found in the sludge in and from holes on the surface during heavy rain events. They spawn in groups of up to 3 from sludge worm egg sacs when a player comes near. They can be killed instantly by jumping on them, although this will give the player nausea and decay for 3 seconds. They're hostile to all non-Betweenlands mobs, and they can rarely drop Valenite splinters when jumped on. Now let's cover wights. Wights are hostile undead mobs that spawn uncommonly in most Betweenlands biomes. They can also spawn from monster spawners in shrines, crag rock towers, in the White Fortress, and they're occasionally summoned by the primordial malevolence. They wander slowly around with their heads hung low, with a semi-transparent texture, and cause heat wave-like distortion of the environment around them. When they notice the player, they'll get faster, become opaque, and attack with melee. This can be avoided by sneaking around the wight. They'll also occasionally transform into a volatile form when hit by the player, turning the wight into a puff of white smoke with only the screaming head visible. This can fly around as well as pass through blocks and will rapidly chase the player. If it catches up, it will possess the player, causing the head to revolve around the player's vision. It will then spawn volatile souls that fly around the possessed player, dealing damage to them as well as other nearby entities until either the player or the wight is dead. This attack deals magic damage, meaning it goes through armor. If the player escapes the soul form before being latched onto, or after the wight is latched on for a while, the wight will transform back into its physical form. Souls can also possess swamp hags, but only if they can see the player and there's a hag nearby. Both types of possession can be prevented by wearing a skull mask. The wight possessing a mob can be attacked separately from the possessed mob. Wights can spawn with a random amulet, giving it middle gem circle benefits. It drops up to 1 wight's heart if killed by the player. Alright, let's get on to the Tameable / Rideable mobs. So first off, we have the Emberling, which is a tameable hostile mob that rarely spawns on Hearthgrove logs. It can be tamed by feeding them undying embers. They are healed with octine nuggets or ingots, as well as healing slowly when standing on octine blocks. They have a basic melee attack and a fire breath attack that is half a heart and sets mobs on fire. They drop up to 4 undying embers and 1 octine nugget. They can hold a single amulet. Then we have the Harlequin Toad, which are passive tameable mobs that spawn both above and below ground in swamplands. They can be tamed when fed with dragonfly wings, and they take at least 10 before being tamed. They can be ridden with right click and dismounted with sneak. The toad is able to ram into mobs that are attacking you or mobs that you attack. They can hold a single amulet. Amulets can be taken off with shift right click. Then we have the Tar Minion, which is a small figure made of tar, which is created by surrounding an animated Tar Beast heart with a tar drip. It will exist in the player's inventory as the Tar Minion item until thrown by right clicking. It will land as a mob, then attack any nearby hostile mobs with melee, which gives them slowness. If it doesn't die in about 6 minutes, it will despawn, causing a small tar explosion, which damages nearby entities and gives them slowness. They can also be given up to 3 amulets if you give them the required amulet slots. When they're killed or despawned, they'll drop an inanimate Tarmanian, which can then be put through the animator to recreate the original Tarmanian item. And so that wraps up everything we have to cover in this video. If you guys enjoyed, please leave a like, as these videos take a ton of work to produce. Also, definitely check out the brand new video we have on these Science Bros. Link to that will be down in the description, as I said previously. And I highly recommend downloading this mod for yourself. There is just so much content that this adds, and it cannot possibly be covered in such a short video, so please check it out for yourself. Link will be down in the description below. And that's going to wrap up everything, so if you enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe, comment for more, and we'll see you all next time, everybody. Peace out.